Church is 10 years old, started by a fellow by the name of Eugene Brining that had a desire to reach out to the biker community in the greater Central Valley area. You know, from Fresno to Turlock, virtually everyone in the biker community in a formalized sense, either or the Christian clubs or the non-Christian clubs, know of biker community church. So it's been far-reaching in terms of reaching out into the biker community. One of our mottos is all patches are welcome, and so we will have as many as 8 to 10 different patches that will show up at our events at any given time. And they range from Christian patches, such as Sons of Thunder, to the more mainstream non-Christian clubs that are not really 1%, but just a Christian club such as Manuel Victor. You know, the typical rider in our church is really usually about to retire or retired, blue-collar professional person. We have one of our riders was the former facility manager for Merced College. Another rider was the former water district manager for the city of Livingston. We have a school teacher that teaches at Juvenile Hall. And so that is really the makeup, the larger makeup of our riders. Now we also have a reasonable amount of former, more hardline biker riders that have just decided that hard life was not what they wanted, but they still had the passion to ride, and so they have gravitated to a church that is meets that niche as well. And that really was Pastor Huge's vision and our church's vision, is to just be a place where we share a common passion to ride, and yet see that there is another element on our life that may or may not be missing, and that is the faith element. The founding pastor, Pastor Huge Brining, just really felt a call to reach to the biker community. And how the church got its name, this Ain't Your Mama's Church, was he started reaching out to really the outlaw biker community, and he would invite them to church, and they would say, well, Pastor Huge, when I was a kid, Mama took me to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Friday night, you know. And so Pastor Huge would simply say, yeah, but this ain't your mama's church. And thus the birth of the church happened that way. They started out, the church 10 years ago started out, I was told, with about 55 people, and all of them owned a bike. At this point in our church, obviously a bike is not required to be part of our church, but with our church now, about 25% of our people own bikes. And the demographic has really shifted from really Huge's initial reaching out to the hardcore bike groups to more of the mainline, just guys that have a passion to ride. Again, the blue-collar professional guys that have a passion to ride, but also in their life, they've come to a point in their life where that spiritual desire is starting to sort of come alive. And so we're starting to realize and see more and more folks in our community that have a passion to ride, but not really a passion to be part of the necessarily hardcore 1% bikers. And so there is a happy medium between that occasional weekend rider and the riders that really have a passion to ride, but not at the 1% level. I ride with the American Legion Riders, Post 83 out of Merced, and we have a lot of our riders that are veteran riders. And again, you're right, there's this image, for an example, one of the images we are struggling to overcome is I don't want to bring my family to a, quote, biker church, because their image is of the outlaw perception. And the reality is it's not that. It is just everyday hardworking folks that just have a passion to ride. And then at some point in their life feel a need or a passion for that spiritual awareness in their life. Culturally, yeah, it is a man's world, and I'm not trying to be a chauvinist there. We have a number of women riders, but culturally, the demographic, the culture of guys that sort of have those man-type jobs, if you will, you know, the firefighter, the veteran, the pipe fitter, those sort of guys, those kind of hands-on sort of guys, generally have more You'll see more of those that ride. Yeah, there's more of, again, if you see the nature of our people, their say their work background, their military history background, there seems to be that personality that gravitates toward owning a motorcycle and riding a motorcycle, and just having really that passion to just be out on the road. And again, it may even be at some level that sense of that element of danger. I'm not a psychiatrist, but it's almost a no-brainer that that type of job, that type of, my history is life on the edge, what I've done. Another component is the recovering hardcore drug addicts that find that that is a dead-end career or life, if you will. They come out of that, they get their life straight and moving forward, but yet that still that need for adrenaline rush, that need to feel the excitement of it, that is another component, quite frankly, that we see that show up at the St. Your Mama's Church.
Here at Sturgis, we put on the Kid Zone, and at any given motorcycle rally, there's plenty of things for adults to do, but very, very little for kids. And so the community kids are kind of held captive, and a lot of bikers actually travel with their families, and so we provide just a fun, safe place for kids. We're at the Calvary Assembly of God, which is just a couple blocks off of the main street right in Sturgis, South Dakota. We have stuff that goes on all day long, but in the middle of the afternoon we kind of do a program where we really get into teaching them about God and how much He loves them. Something for kids to do, like I said, is very, very rare, so we're popular with all the crowds, and I believe that even though we're kind of we are geared for children, we teach and preach to a lot of adults as well while we're going about our business here. We never try to act like something that we're not. We're here because we believe that God wants us here, and He wants us to tell people about His love. Riding a motorcycle is somewhat of a spiritual experience. You get to see the country so much better when it's not framed by a windshield. So already people are kind of really enjoying God's creation a little more. But the other thing on a motorcycle, a close call is almost always a life or death feel, and people know that. I hear people all the time and say, man, I had a close call, but someone was watching out for me. And I'm able to let them know that's right, God was watching out for you, and He always does. What I found is that a lot of bikers are really patriotic. We understand that our freedoms are very important in the machines we choose to ride, and whether or not you want to wear a helmet, and that's kind of an American type of thing, is that freedom. And so that with patriotism, I think, comes a little bit more conservatism. Just what it takes to ride a motorcycle and live as a biker, if you're going to choose that lifestyle, it's a unique, you go into a unique demographic, and we share a lot of experiences, but God and country are very, very important to us. Sometimes it can become a little bit routine. I've done it quite a bit, but it is never boring. You put several hundred motorcycles together in a line and try to ride in formation all the way across the country, and it is a test of your skills and your endurance and your patience and everything all the way. But what we get to see on Run for the Wall is we get really acquainted with the fact that most of America is very much patriotic, share a lot of really common, just good, solid values regardless of their political affiliations. And Run for the Wall has a lot of veterans, so it's just a great opportunity for guys to find healing, brotherhood, and to see patriotism in a way that's really hard to match. On Run for the Wall, I don't think there have been too many guys who would say they were disappointed that they had their expectations set too high. Usually they're set too low, and when you get among other people who have experienced the same thing as you, and have said, you know what, there is hope. Here's how I dealt with that. That's always very, very powerful in a person's life. And on Run for the Wall, it's not just veterans. There's also civilians who are there saying, you know, we love you and we're grateful for what you did and we want to help you. And it's a therapeutic thing. And sometimes guys, they've kept things bottled up for so long, they've even forgot about them. And they'll come to the surface and finally, you know, be able to maybe leave it at the wall, leave it somewhere along the way. But from my perspective, I'm a chaplain. And very few people that come into it probably think, you know, this is a place that God could get a hold of my life. And I've seen it over and over again. I encourage guys, I said, look, everything you're doing is different on this run. So why don't you make it different too, how you approach God? Start seeing him as a friend, start seeing him as a helper, you know, talk to him. And I've seen guys listen to that and watch their lives change, because it's very powerful. We know that, very powerful. God changes lives all the time. It's not uncommon for us to roll into a town and they'll have all the schools along the way out there, all the kids out on the schoolyard waving flags and holding up signs saying thank you for your service, thank you. And it's a really strong and powerful experience. I've done this run for a lot of years, and I've been able to see year after year the guys who come back, and okay, I'll just see God changing them, and you know, you can even see it on their face. But a lot of guys have expressed to me, I'm a different man because of Run for the Wall and because I found God.
Back at the Pendleton, Oregon rally, there is a line of flags representing the branches of our armed forces. This is a front and center display where the riders come into park. No one who came here could have missed it. Military veteran riding groups are common in the ranks of biker clubs. In this video shot, members of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association take a break on a Colorado highway. We spoke once again with John, a veteran of the Vietnam War.
I ride a Harley-Davidson FLSS since 2015, December. Yeah, I've had soft tails and I've had customs that I built with John Harmon, 120 motors back in the 80s. I started off on a 305 Superhawk, probably about 1963. '66. Boot camp, then AIT. Boot camp was in Fort Lewis, Washington. AIT was in Fort Carson, Colorado, and then off to Vietnam. I was in Benoit and Saigon. Bad. All tour duties that I know of were bad. All I know is when I first got there, I couldn't tell if they were incoming or outgoing. You know, you're really green, and nobody should go to war. Basic MOS was infantry. My AIT, what I did mostly, my MOS was 64A10, which is a light vehicle driver. I drove a deuce and a half with 25 troops in the back. Then I got a job offering to work for a general, and then I moved to Saigon. 1967, 68. Yes, I was there during the Tet Offensive. Well, they put a sign up 2 weeks ahead of time saying they were coming. And they came. That was like 10 days before I was supposed to come home. That's when I got hit with a rocket and blown out of my bed. It was 4 days and 4 nights steady fighting. Nobody slept. Terrible. All war is terrible. They kicked our butt. They can tell you what they want. They leveled 7 cities in February, Tet, of 1968. They said they were coming. They came, leveled Way. I don't think there was a building standing that wasn't tore up in Way. They hit 7 major cities. They didn't run. They didn't win? That's a joke. Well, they just left. They did their damage and went back to their own home. You know, they knew they were going to win. They were winning. You couldn't beat them. There was no way. You know, they'd work for you in the daytime. At night, they put on their black pajamas and knew exactly where you were. And they'd come and get you. Can you tell a North Californian from a Southern Californian? They're about the same size. You can't tell. You don't know. You know, that was the worst thing. You didn't know who had the bombs on them. Whether they were women and children, you didn't know who the enemy was. How can you win a war when you're surrounded by 360 degrees of enemy? There is no winning the war. We weren't there for that. We weren't there to win. People should see Air America. Our government was flying empty cargo ships, airplanes, to Cambodia and Laos to do deals with the Khmer with money, and they transferred guns and ammunition to the enemy, and they were bringing back heroin with the empty cargo ships. In fact, I think Ginsburg got Johnson, when he came down from being interrogated after Kennedy got killed, and he landed, and he went through the 7 press conferences. Ginsburg got up right next to him and asked him what he was going to do about that particular situation. We didn't hear from him. He didn't give a concert for 5 years after that. They're flying for the government, and that's what they're doing. You know how they get their recruits? They drive down the street in a truck and just pick up the kids and throw them in the back of the truck, and they became the army. That's your army. When they got hit on Tet night, I was in a BOQ with the generals right across the street. And first rocket that was launched in Saigon was at the gate to the Arvin complex, which I was right down the street from 3rd Field, right up the street from General Abrams, who was taking over Westmoreland, who lived back around the corner. I lived in a BOQ 3, which is a bachelor officer's quarters for full bird colonels and above. My neighbor in the French villa that lived next to me was a 2-star general named Moore, who was in charge of all the MPs in Vietnam. I worked for General Early Cole, who at that time was a 1-star brigadier who was in charge of all personnel assignments in Vietnam, no matter what branch you were in. Very powerful general. We lived in a very powerful place with everybody. When we were under attack, they would sit at the table with a tablecloth, silverware, china, crystal glasses. We'd walk around in serving trays in between each one, just like in a restaurant, and they'd pick their food out, go around, go back in the kitchen, put the tray down, grab your rifle, go back on the wall, shoot at Charlie. They'd be sitting at the table with their little pistols, which were useless, little pistols sitting by their dinner table, by their tray, and they'd be eating. And the war was right there. I mean, right there. The guy was in the street shooting machine guns, and General just stopped his car and got out and went and looked. Everybody's down in the duck, and he's out standing there with his bar. They're like Supermen. Those guys are different kind of people. I don't know if you'd call them a warmonger or what, but they're not like everybody else. When it comes to that kind of stuff, I don't know, they have no fear. And I guess they think they're invincible, I guess. I don't know. But they're crazy. That didn't bother them at all. Second lieutenant's life expectancy on the DMZ was 32 seconds. Mostly be shot by his own men. You get yourself a second Lieutenant Louis, first officer, right? Bottom. He'd go to the DMZ. He'd tell guys that had been there 6-7 months to go do something that's going to get them killed. They just turn around and shoot them. It happens all the time in war. A lot of people get killed by their own men. Would you let some guy just come into country that has no military experience except college, marching around in the courtyard thinking that he was some kind of soldier, and come in there and you're a war veteran? You're seasoned. You're a fighting man. And this guy's going to tell you go risk your life in some stupid move that makes absolutely no sense? It happened all the time. It was common.
In Auburn, California, the annual 111-mile ride for veterans is a benefit run for the Forgotten Soldier program. This is a non-profit agency seeking to bring healing to injured veterans through holistic and other treatments. Some of these methods may seem somewhat unorthodox, but they are becoming more widely practiced in recent years. In particular, the empathetic touch technique is used to generate the restoration of the soul and psyche of the traumatized combat veteran. Other, more familiar approaches are offered to prevent further troubles such as untreated PTSD, relationship problems, and suicide. In the wake of our prolonged wars in the Middle East, support agencies on the home front are critical to returning veterans.
I started my career with the Air Force, and that was back in 1977. They hired me out of Chico State University under an internship program, and eventually I came on full-time with the Air Force. I was with the Air Force as a civilian contracting officer for 29 years. I worked 20 years at McClellan Air Force Base in the Sacramento, California area, and almost 10 years at Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California. Really both exceptional facilities and excellent work. I enjoyed it very much. I ultimately wanted to return from Southern California after Edwards Air Force Base, and so I applied for the position as a contracting officer, contract specialist with the VA, and I did move to that organization in May 2007. I was very excited about it, very happy to be home, and within a short period of time, they presented me with a couple boxes of files, even though they had just brought on a new electronic contracting system, which was really excellent because the VA was trying to move forward by having an totally electronic system. I was already used to that with the Air Force, so it was big for change under the VA. However, I was given paper files. The paper files were not complete. They were expired contracts. They were contracts that had expired in 2004 and 2005. Mind you, it was 2007 when I was receiving them. And I discovered over time that the services had continued despite expired contracts. The difficulty in my situation was trying to maintain services and yet create a legal contract to resurrect the prior contract if that was doable, or to issue a new solicitation because we have competing requirements, we have regulations that have to be complied with. The process for procuring multi-million-dollar contracts can take anywhere from 12 months to 18 months depending on the format of the procurement. It's very critical to get what we need, the right items that we need that are going to do the best for our medical care for our veterans, and get it at the lowest possible price, because the best price allows us to procure more of something else that we need for our veterans. Very critical. Well, I have to say, the first corrective measures that I saw, given I came to the VA in 2007, because of the systemic problem, breaking down and failure to maintain the contracts, the entity out there that made the difference, the biggest difference as far as I saw, were the whistleblowers. Without them, I don't know that the VA would have moved forward, because it was stuck. But a lot of people care. The VA hires a lot of veterans that are now out of the military. They are focused. They want change. They believe in the regulations. They served as soldiers under regulations. To step into an organization that had moved away from following the regulations, they wanted to see them enforced and move forward. And that's what happened over the years, slowly but surely. And it was an excellent thing to see that the VA started hiring retired high-level individuals, majors, lieutenant colonels, away from the Air Force, Marines, other agencies, took that wonderful, great talent, brought it into the VA. Yes, it was a change, because the VA is a civilian organization, not a military organization. It's 100% run by civilians. But that talent merged into our group, and it took years, but it started taking hold. That discipline and order of the military fell into place through these retired military people and officers, and it made all the difference. As the years went by, I saw inadequate regulation changes in the legislative area. However, I did see contracting regulation changes that were long overdue that started happening as the years unfolded, going 2009 into 2010. Every year brought new change, and it was excellent. It was going in the right direction. Unfortunately, I often compare the VA to turning the Titanic when you have your iceberg in sight. It's just virtually impossible. And that's where the VA was at one point. But with momentum and time, it's moving, it's turning. It's just a difficult process for such a large organization.
The annual 9/11 Memorial Ride in Bakersfield, California is a well-attended run by the riders of Kern County. This is a veteran-oriented event, and several groups both from the public and private sector have set up stands to offer support for our warriors in uniform. The riders meet at the Harley-Davidson dealership of Bakersfield, where we spoke with the ride leader and event founder, Ben Patton.
This is the 11th year that we have produced this ride. What happened is about 5 years after the event happened, we noticed that people were starting to forget. And so we put together an event to make sure that they wouldn't forget. And the first ride, we brought about 300 bikes, and every ride since then it's increased and increased. One year it was stupid hot and we only had 400 riders, but typically it's 400 to 600 bikes. And the premise behind it is never forget is not just a tagline. It means something to us. My son is active duty military. He enlisted after 2011. A lot of our friends are active duty military. The people that will ride with us today, not only are they veterans, but their children are enlisted. Their children are stepping up and answering the call. The other thing about this event that's incredibly special to me is the Vietnam vets. The Vietnam vets, if you know your history, you know how they went in, you know what they came home to, which was horrific. Well, in today's world, we honor these young men and women when they go and when they come back. And for the Vietnam vet to see this today, it's almost a healing. Here in the early stages of setting up this event, I've got a half a dozen Vietnam vets already. And to see them here and to be part of it, it touches my heart. It's picked up its own steam. It's taken on a life of its own. We don't buy any advertising at all. I put some stuff on Facebook, we do some flyers all over, but it is word of mouth. Everybody knows that the 9/11 ride is going to happen. They just don't know the time because it fluctuates, but they know it starts at Bakersfield Harley. They know we'll either go to Minterfield or we'll go to some other location. They know that the veterans organizations are going to be here. So if they've got a question for the County Vet Service Office or the Bakersfield Vet Center or any host of others that are here, they know that they can find them here on this day. In the military, you develop a camaraderie and a brotherhood that is unmatched like anything in the civilian world. The closest thing that comes to that is those of us on these motorcycles. These events, and I've been doing them for a long, long time, these events transcend motorcycle clubs and motorcycle makes. It transcends color barriers and religious preferences. These people show up for these veteran events because they want to honor those vets, be it World War II or Korea, Vietnam, or the kid that went in yesterday. Doesn't matter. We're all here for them. Some of us because we served it, some of us because our kids are serving it. But the people that impress me the most are the people that aren't vets, the people that don't have kids in the military, and yet they're here today because they understand the patriotism that we all felt on September 12th, 2001, that our grandparents and great-grandparents felt on December 8th, 1941. Well, you'll see today that patriotism continues in the hearts of these people that show up. You couldn't buy a flag in Bakersfield in 2001 on September 12th because they were in everybody's yards. That kind of patriotism, that's what's forgotten. And today, you see in the news, it's all over the place. It's not about the young man that's fighting the war. It's not about that when he comes home, he's dealing with his demons. It's about all this other stuff. Some of it's important, some of it's garbage. Today, we're honoring law enforcement on today's ride. People don't realize 61 police officers lost their lives that day in 2001. 61 cops. 39 of them were NYPD. People don't think about that. They see the firemen, they honor the firemen, as well we should. But what about those cops? And what about the cop that's doing the job today? That cop will take a bullet for you. He don't know you, but he will. And these coppers are getting beat up by political correctness and people getting hurt by words and all this stuff, but yet they're still doing the job. So today we're going to honor them. And I feel sorry for my brothers that are in law enforcement today because the job that they have to do is, and I retired from the sheriff's department, is so much more difficult than the job I did and so much more difficult than the generation before me. It's absolutely incredible what these guys have to go through. But yet they're still much like the military. They're putting a uniform on, they're stepping up, and they're going out to do that job for you and for me. We can't forget that.
Some of the bikes have insignia on them commemorating the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001. This Honda Goldwing has an honor badge for all who died that day. It also has on it the numbers of police officers and firefighters killed when the buildings of the New York City World Trade Center collapsed. Its owner is Bill Pitcher, who shared with us his own feelings on the 9/11 ride.
It's a 06. I rode other bikes, but I test drove this thing in 06 and sold everything else I had and bought it. We do all the military escorts for these kids going off to boot camp. We also have an Armed Forces Support Foundation that we do all kinds of stuff for veterans here in Kern County. You'll see some people getting ready to go into the armed services, and you'll see some that just returned. They'll all be out here today. Yeah, we have compliments all the time, people coming up thanking us, and like I tell them, it's our honor to do this. You know, we don't need a thanks, it's our honor to do this. Yeah, 61 is the number of police officers that died in 9/11 running into the building to try to rescue lives. 343 is the amount of firefighters that died during 9/11 also, running into the building to try to save lives. The amount of people that joined the armed forces after this was incredible, and still today. 9/11 comes around, especially here in Kern County. Like I told somebody the other day, we were talking about California and liberalism and whatnot, and I said, you know, Kern County is a giant red spot here in California, and the people coming out, on this ride alone, we've had anywhere from 200 bikes to 500 bikes. We've had them come from Los Angeles area, Fresno, people come over from Vegas to do this ride. I'll tell you, they're very patriotic around here. Just the number of stuff that goes on just for our vets around here is incredible. Our fire department here, especially in this area with all the major fires and stuff going on, and you'll see later today, Helicopter 408 will be here. It's a fire attack helicopter from the fire department, and they'll actually escort us. Kern County Fire Department is the major one here. I mean, they go everywhere. Yeah, they all join together. Forestry Service, they all pitch in. This ride, to be honest with you, about 5 years after 9/11, Larry Snow and I put this on, and you know, we didn't know what we were doing. And Larry was a Vietnam vet, and that's the whole reason behind this. Is, you know, I was too young for Vietnam myself, but I had relatives in there, and I stayed glued to the TV, and I know how they were treated when they came back. And we said, you know, we're going to do something about it. So we put this ride together, and really the first ride we ever did, we just threw out a bunch of flyers, and we were going to go from South High School to North High School. Broke just about every law there was going down Chester Avenue, but before we knew it, we had 300 people on that ride. And there was a young lady there after the ceremony. Evidently her father was killed in 9/11, and I promised her then we'll keep this going until all of our troops come home. And I pray that our president listens to his generals and just don't put handcuffs on them. Let them go in there and do the job and get out.
At the Jubilee Campout in Cottonwood, California, a commemoration is presented by reading the names of fallen heroes. They are among local friends and family members who had served in our armed forces.
Casel Guyot, Frank Miller, Gabe Tyndall, Dennis Touch Walden, Ed Spencer, Michael Dennis Murphy, Bradley Bernard, Bob Ring of this church here, Robert Older Than Dirt Tabor, Wes Bernard, Ed Fowler, Chaplain Gene Beer, Phyllis Horner, Laura Graham, Vicki Lynn Fern, Gertie Johnson, Humper Charlie Torres, Ricky Shipman, Elizabeth K. Stamp, Milton Francis Applehoff, Nancy Cordelli, James O. Day, Lyman Monster the Monster Clark, Harlan Mike Michaels, Sportster Randy Calkins, Bruce Bernard, Clovis Webster, my dad, Gary Jackson, Bob Lewis, Steve Adams, Jonathan Richard Niels, and Pfaff Flip and Phil Thompson. Amen.
Rick Allison, John T-Bone Thibault, Donald Duke Solis, Michael Lee Gent, Christopher Clemens, Warren Dean Lee, Willie Marshall, Michael Haston, Jerry M. Brown, Alice Fisher, James Catlin, Ted Abelman, Jeff Buck, Sherry A. Ward, Susan Susie Cobbert, Jerry M. Smith, Jimmy Mac McFall, Tommy Tomo Hall, Steve Recon Hutzler, Richard Pigpen Hahn.
The Corporal Mike Anderson ride from Modesto Harley-Davidson is in remembrance of a young soldier killed in action in Fallujah, Iraq. His father, Mike Anderson Sr., gives ride instructions for the day. The route travels from Modesto, California, up into the hills eastward, ending at Ironstone Vineyards for lunch. At Ironstone Vineyards, riders park in the amphitheater and head over for lunch. A quintet of Camaro police patrol cars, each one having a 9/11 commemorative artistic paint scheme, decorates the grounds as a reminder of why the riders are there. A blues band provides background entertainment. Some latecomers ride in for the afternoon. The day is a somber one for those who still remember the sacrifice made by Corporal Anderson.
Kevin Major Howard. Some of you may best know me from a film called Full Metal Jacket. I was honored to play the role of Rafterman, and I want to explain why I'm even here today. I'm standing beside one of my 9/11 Angel Tribute Camaros. As you can read on her, she's one of the trade tower Camaros, and all these names are those we lost in one of the trade towers. The 9/11 Angel Camaros are 5 cars that tell the complete story of 9/11 and adorned with all the names of those we lost on that tragic day. We're up here on behalf of a special hero we lost in Fallujah, Mike Anderson Jr. His father, Mike Anderson Sr., makes sure that his son is remembered. He makes sure that Modesto gets a chance to have a majestic moment with the remembrance of his son. A son that wore that uniform and on a given day fell. And he fell because he was protecting our freedoms as a nation, my personal freedom, and I was given the honor to bring up the 9/11 angels to say to community, Mike Anderson Jr. is much missed, is forever loved, and an angel watching over all of us. When you see a hero walk into Starbucks in uniform, man or woman, I want you to do me a favor. Push that hero up to the front of the line, buy them that coffee, and then stand there and give them a standing ovation. And let that hero know, welcome home, you make a difference in our lives, and we honor you. Teach that to your babies. In fact, Fueled by the Fallen's motto is, let's remind our children of 7 forgotten words. Yes, sir. No, sir. Please, and thank you. It'll only make us strong again tomorrow. The simple respect between each other is all it takes. We are in shadowed times. Respect is not being given to you as you so deserve. Well, may I stand up for a moment and say, when you see a man in blue, a woman in blue, you go over there and you thank them, and you introduce yourself and ask for their first name, and say to your children, there's a reason why this man wears this uniform, because he cares about his community, because he cares about us, because he protects our family and our freedoms as well, here in our homeland. Let's make a difference together. It's our America, it's our future. I'm Kevin Major Howard. I'm trying to make the difference with you. Thank you for everything you've done for all of us. And to all our heroes who are coming home, get home soon. We have Thanksgiving bread to break. Miss you, love you, bye.
We have done this for 13 years. This is our 13th annual. It is a salute and a tribute to not only our fallen, and of course my son, but it's a tribute to our veterans, our currently serving military, our law enforcement, our first responders who sometimes take a negative hit in the national media. We want them to know that we love them and we appreciate them and we support them. Mike was my son was a typical California boy. He skateboarded, he raced bicycles, he rode and raced motorcycles, so he had friends within the motorcycle community, as I did. He rode motorcycles as an adult, and so we put something together with the local Harley shop, and we didn't know where it was going to go. We figured if there's 5 people riding, that's what we're going to do. Now it's turned into this, again, 13 years of doing this. We choose different venues. Today we're up in Murphy's, California, in the Gold Rush country, enjoying the greenery and the scenery that California typically does not see after 5 years of drought. So it's beautiful today. There are groups or groups within communities or small communities that appreciate them. With less than 1% of our nation currently serving in this ongoing global war on terrorism, which is worldwide, there's not a lot of focus, there's not a lot of attention. We are in a country that's war weary. These are the longest wars we've been in, and it's unfortunate that sometimes the sacrifice goes unnoticed, but at the same time, a day like today where it's a tribute to all of our veterans and to our fallen, we bring that attention. We bring these communities together from all eras of conflict, whether it's the Vietnam guys, the Gulf War guys, the Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom, and just supporters. People want to support. Sometimes they don't really know what to do or how to do it. And this is a opportunity to come support our nation's finest. A lot of the generation that the typical motorcycle rider is are from the era, from the Vietnam War, and kind of get that whole thing. And a lot of those veterans, where these different groups have came together to support the kids coming home, support them when they leave on deployment, they know what they come home to. They come home to an ungrateful nation at that time. And those guys take it upon themselves to make sure that that's never going to happen again, and it's not going to happen on their watch. So yeah, when you talk about the the biker community, if you will. Yeah, it's a very close-knit community. A lot of good friends, a lot of brothers, if you will, that would take a bullet for one another. I think that obviously a majority of this country looks back and sees the division, if you will, and realizes that we're going in the wrong direction. So you get behind something that you can believe in, and you support that, and just try and redirect, refocus efforts, and get this ship turned. It's a big ship. It can take a long time to turn it. And it takes somebody with a team and with the knowledge and the wherewithal to make this thing happen. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting turn of events. Patriotism and loyalty are two words that maybe aren't used in our vocabulary a whole lot anymore, but at the same time, it's there. The silent majority feels it in their hearts, and they are, again, they're a force to be reckoned with. I consider myself a part of that force, and when you spread the word throughout and these groups come together, yeah, it's 9/11 is the biggest thing that happened to this country. It's certainly our generation, Pearl Harbor. It's our generation's Pearl Harbor. So the tragedy that happened on that day will not be forgotten. And for somebody like myself and many of the people here today, never forget. That's more than just a slogan on a bumper sticker. It's something I wake up with every day. I will never forget. Not only will I never forget my son, I'll never forget the warfighters that served with him, alongside of him. There are several that are here today that were with him right up until the second he took his last breath. Right where he fell, they were with him. So again, how can you not support somebody that's willing to lay their life on the line, sacrifice their family, their friends, for love of country and for us? Again, patriotism, loyalty.
In the northern Nevada city of Winnemucca, the Runnemucca Motorcycle Rally is held every Memorial Day weekend, with special attention paid to honoring our servicemen and women. The rally attracts riders from Nevada, Idaho, Utah, Oregon, Washington, and California. Although this part of Nevada is remote, it has spectacular scenery. It will also keep you occupied if you like casinos. One of the rally's designated rides is up to Paradise Valley, a scenic route north of Winnemucca and a pleasant, quiet spot to enjoy a lunch. Riders come and go at leisure, this being a bonus event of the weekend. Going back to town takes you on a light traffic road surrounded by mountain ranges, one of the perks of Runnemucca. The state of Nevada has several military bases, and an ongoing tradition here is the Soldier of the Year Award. Jim Driscoll of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association officiates at the event.
Congratulations, specialists. You've joined a small group. And for the first time of this award, we have a female honoree. This year we are going to honor Senior Airman Becky Barber. Airman Barber has been selected as the 2017 National Guard Soldier of the Year for Northern Nevada. Airman Barber has the honor of being the first female soldier of the year and also the first Air Guard member to be given the honor. The 2012 Lowry alum enlisted in the Air Guard soon after graduation. Thanks to the encouragement from her family, who have a strong military history. Guardsmen can attend Nevada Higher Education Institution tuition-free. Becky is in her second year at TMCC, and all her Air Force training is accredited. She plans to advance to UNR with a major in special education. Thanks to her Guard service, Barbara will graduate with zero, I said zero, student debt.
Yo!
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say I myself and most everyone on this stage are military veterans. And right now, if we could give Airman Baker applause. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say a few words representing the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, and then we have a speaker. Skip Becker will be representing the Veterans of Foreign Wars here. Paul Schler will represent the Vietnam Veterans of America, and these three organizations, along with the American Legion and the Nevada Patriots, are the ones that provide this program and award the Soldier of the Year their rifle. So on behalf of the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, we all have motorcycles and we live all across northern Nevada. Hawthorne, Yerington, Carson City, Washoe Valley, Reno, here in Winnemucca, and we even have a couple in Battle Mountain. And the Combat Veterans goal is to help raise funds, and our slogan is Veterans Supporting Veterans. And we raise money for the Veterans Guest House in Reno, and our Combat Veterans brothers in Utah have a program called Ride to Zero. And what that means is we're dedicated to bringing the 22 suicides a day from military veterans to zero. And they are connected with the University of Utah Post-Traumatic Stress and Veteran Suicide Program. So those are topics that are very near and dear to us. And if you're a combat veteran and you're interested in joining the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, you just go to cvma.org and all the information is there. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have spoken to you, and I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Paul Schler from the Vietnam Veterans of America.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. On behalf of the Vietnam veterans, all of us are getting rather older, I know. So I know that there's others out there that are in the same category. In fact, there may be a few World War II veterans here. Are there any? I figured they're probably not. You're getting awfully old at this stage of the game. Vietnam veterans are veterans who served during the time of the Vietnam crisis that ended in 1975. So we've got some age on us, thereabouts. I represent the Vietnam veterans because one of the points we have is we came back and we're not treated at the best. So we want to make sure that no veteran comes back to that same treatment again.
Here, here!
There's a few of people that have asked, they've looked at my uniform and said, what rank is that? Well, a little bit of my own history. I started off as a seaman recruit, electronics field. 20 years later, I got out from Chief Warrant Officer, W3. That's the uniform I wear today. That's only me. We're here to honor the heroes that deserve our memory, those who are not here. In memory, Memorial Day. All of us have relatives who have fought in various organizations, various times, but we have to remember the true heroes are those who gave all. They're not with us today. Those are the ones that really stand up and deserve to be remembered.
Hello, Winnemucca. How many female veterans do I have out there right now? Let me hear from you. This lady over here behind my shoulder, that is a great honor that we give her as Soldier of the Year. I have female veterans that are working in my booth right now. For my female veterans, I say thank you. I am the commander of the Veterans of Foreign Wars post here in Winnemucca. I do all sorts of stuff for the veterans. Most of you people know who I am. So I am extremely pleased and proud to be up here representing my organization. We are the largest combat veterans organization in the world. Here in Winnemucca, we not only provide resources for the veterans that are here, we also contribute to the community. We contributed to the Boys and Girls Club. We do boys camps out here. We do girls clubs. We do the softball leagues, t-ball leagues. Veterans of Foreign Wars are everywhere in Winnemucca. I thank you very much for your time up here. And Becky, congratulations.
Thank you, Skip. Welcome home. We have a very special lady that's going to speak today, and I love this lady. And she is truly the best representative of our community, Winnemucca, that I know. And it's my honor to present Mayor Diane Putnam.
Good evening, everyone. What a great evening. And it is my great privilege to, on behalf of the city of Winnemucca, to congratulate Becky Becker. Awesome. Tonight, right now, this is all about this lady and her representation as Nevada National Guard Soldier of the Year. She is the first female representative, and I could not be more proud of her as being Winnemucca's first female mayor. We've come a long way. It is really an honor to be a Soldier of the Year. It means you are not only respected by your peers, but you're respected by the people who govern you. And I respect you because not only have you made this achievement, you also came from Winnemucca. You're a Lowry graduate, so So let me just turn the microphone over, but first may I shake your hand and congratulate you officially. Thank you.